Welcome back to another UFO episode. Today, friends, we are going to be going through an epic man, an American gem, Jon McMoneagle. Now, I've made videos about him before. He's literally Psychic Spy 001. He's literally the first one. Amazing story. You should really watch his Sean Ryan interview, which is actually what I cover as well. So it's actually fascinating how the Cohen Intelligence Agency, how they recruited him in the first place. When he was in Vietnam, okay, it's kind of genius how they found out. They looked at the soldiers and they looked for people who should be dead but aren't dead. And they looked at him, and over a 10-year career when he was in Vietnam, or when he was in basically the army, I think he was in something where they had like his field, he had a 30% mortality rate every year. But he was still alive after 10 years, something like that. So they looked at him, they're like, dude, you shouldn't be alive. How the hell are you doing that? And they end up figuring out, after they did a lot of tests and stuff on him, he has some really good precognition. Something in his brain just works differently. That, the third eye thing is just really cool. There's some stories where like he was about to walk into a shelter and then his brain just goes, freeze. And he just stood there. And then like 2 seconds later, everything just collapsed and everyone in there died. Yeah, there's some other stories of like another one out here when he was in Vietnam where there was somebody waving to him. He was waving back, and it was like one of the sergeants, I think in one of the bunkers, and he had like a I think a big potato sack, but it was rigged with grenades, and he didn't know. And the Viet Cong were gonna explode it, and he could see it, and he's like waving to them to try to tell them to like, don't open the bag. And they were like waving, hello, hello, hello. And he opened the bag, everything exploded. So it's also very, very fascinating with these,
I have probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 60-something photographs of things on Mars that are clearly alien.
Is it possible that there was a civilization on Mars thousands of years ago?
When did you start to believe there was life on Mars?
Well, you saw the square.
Yeah.
That square on Mars.
Is that real?
Yes, that's real.
Is that real?
That's real. That's 3 feet long and that big around.
That was taken on Mars.
That's laying on Mars. These pyramidal places are like hibernation chambers. They're trying to survive until somebody comes to save them.
Wow, that's amazing.
So if you notice, friends, even in here, everyone really focuses on what Jon was able to see remote viewing on Mars. But he doesn't like focusing on it because you can't corroborate the information there. So that's why if you like saying he knew like, oh, this guy, some psychic dude talking about Mars, he doesn't actually like that. How the government used him, okay, this is very interesting in his interview. So how the government uses Jon, well, not anymore, right? Not anymore. He's obviously retired now. But how they were using him was they would have intel over like Russia or Iran or someone's building something, yeah. And they would, without him knowing, they'd give him the coordinates to go do the sketch of it, of what's going on. And they would already have a spy plane go over and take a picture. Now, what they would end up finding is the spy plane couldn't get everything, and it couldn't get underground, and it couldn't get like absolutely like, all the details of it. So what they would do is they would give him remote viewing stuff, and he would draw stuff. And then if the spy plane went on over, or they were able to just gather intel, if what he drew was similar to the spy plane stuff, they would know his information is correct. So it's kind of very amazing how the US Army was able to basically use him as a psychic spy like that. It's very fascinating, right? So that's what they'll pretty much, that's how it was useful as a tool, because like maybe they have a sketch, it's only like 30% of the information full. And then, he's got a sketch out here, and like they would see the pictures. They're like, oh wow, they're very, very similar. There's a bunker in the top left here. There's like landmines over here, whatever he's just able to do. So it's actually fascinating. Now, this whole concept of remote viewing, we're all born with it. Okay, we all have precognition. I mean, everyone knows this, right? You've had that happen in your life. You're thinking about somebody, and then they freaking message you shortly after, or they call you the next day. Just randomly, some things pop up in your head. That's just to say the least. There are many, many others. You can actually test for it, by the way. You can test for it, friends. So how they test for it is they hook one of those really, really sensitive diodes to your fingers, and this is how the army was testing it. They hook you up into a vehicle, and you drive, and then after the vehicle would like cross over a random area, to simulate mines going over a mine, the speakers would go full blast and it would play white noise and it would be piercing to your eye, to your ears. Like, right? So what would they end up finding out is they'd hook it up to your fingers, and then they do it from just random double blind people, right? So they just they'd send them out to the field, and what ends up happening is, because you can see like that little sketch, so I'll just draw it here over them. You can see like this is like your little the electrical pulse, right? So it's dead. But then what will happen is, say at this point, at this point they are going to basically run over the mines that they can't see, and then the speakers in the vehicle are going to get explosive, right? And they get very loud, and you're basically going to react. It's going to hurt your ears. What they end up finding is, friends, like a few milliseconds or a second before, it's like 1.5 seconds, something like really short before. But what ends up happening is the pulse spikes a bit, and then once you go over the mine, there's like a huge spike like that, and then it comes back down. And this spike is our precognition. So they're able to actually test out stuff like now. Why you and I never heard about it? Obvious reasons. Military doesn't want other military figuring this stuff out. Okay, that's why a lot of these guys, they have tests. They go to the government, and the government's like, "Nah, this is all hocus pocus." It's so silly, dude. Of course, they don't want everyone learning about stuff like this, right? It's very fascinating. Let's have a listen a bit to him and Jesse.
I don't know if you're tracking this, but one of the #1 podcasts in the country right now, something called the Telepathy Tapes. And it's nonverbal, often autistic children who have extremely high rates of clairvoyance. And so one has to wonder, is there opportunity cost with the language that we have developed? And when you're not relying on that language, do you revert back to a more primordial form of communication?
Well, it brings consciousness into an arena where you no longer are sensing the surroundings or it's called situational awareness. Your focus is taken off of that, and it's into how you're going to communicate, what you feel about the person across from you, what you're sensing from them. So the warning system that was very functional 200,000 years ago becomes more dysfunctional. Well, you take somebody and put them in combat for a lot, or you put a policeman on the beat at night alone, or firemen's in a building on fire. They got to know when to back out of that fire because the building's going to collapse, or where not to go in the alley because it's an ambush. So you become more situationally aware about the entire area around you instead of just where you're sitting.
When do you first recall as a child being like, okay, maybe I'm kind of good on this sort of psychic stuff?
When they decided, some of the gangs in the area decided they needed me as a token white kid. That didn't work for me.
To literally mentally scout what might happen to them or something? Or?
Well, it was more of I didn't feel comfortable with people that I know might have not liked me as much as the other kids, or were waiting for me to be alone with my change from going to the store for my mother or something.
That's very, very interesting. Even as a kid, okay, there's something out here. Now, there's parts in here, friends. He was able to train Japanese kids in 10 minutes to be able to do this. There's an experiment part in here. Yeah, literally in 10 minutes he could train. Now, a lot of people around this is not new, but a lot of people around there are doing remote viewing. And I just got to, I know it's out there like, there's no way this is real. How on earth? There's a lot of science I've actually done on this. But you got to be careful even when it comes to the science results, because if someone's testing something and then you quickly show them a picture, sometimes if they get the thing right, they're not actually remote viewing. They're just doing future cognition. Because you're showing them the picture in like a minute from now, what they were actually drawing was you showing them the picture. They weren't able to pick the picture out. Do you get what I mean? So sometimes they can test for these. They do these like 72 hours apart, and they do stuff out here. So it is interesting. That's why this is on the bleeding edge. And of course, it sounds like cuckoo science and no one believes it. Yeah, but this spends the same weirdos who are telling everybody, go get jabbed, chop off your nuts. Let's give 15 jabs to 4-year-old kids. Like all these other people out here, they're the ones who are looking more cuckoo over time. And as we start to like explore more, I think everyone's like going to start to flip out. Because when I started seeing this, my mind was blown. So he's just going to explain a bit about how you and I even see things and how we put things together.
You're locked inside a bone box.
Right.
So all this out here is just a figment of your imagination that your mind has put together.
Yeah.
So the eyes alone, to give you an example, the eyes alone vibrate, and we don't know, we can't even tell it's happening. The reason they vibrate is they're actually giving you two different pictures with big black holes in the middle, because the back of the eyeballs where the nerve root connects. So there's no rods and cones there. So to get rid of those big black holes, it's called dithering. It produces a multitude of pictures very quickly by vibrating the eyes, and it overlays and washes away the black holes. So then it combines the result, and what you see is what your mind has created out of all that vibratory moving around and everything. So if there's something in the room that you detest, you may never see it. And there's lots of stuff you can find on the internet now, like where they say, tell me how many times these two guys pass a basketball.
And you're focused on something else.
You're focused on that. And when the film's over, they'll say something like, did you see the 6'4" guy in the gorilla suit? You go, get out of here.
Have you ever heard the term flicker rate? Does that mean anything to you?
So it is interesting how our eyes actually work and put all these things out, because when you see stuff, it's like, this is the interesting part. You're not actually really seeing it. It's your brains are kind of like this satellite. That's what actually ends up happening. And they're writing things about their senses. That's it. It's like, I'm feeling the word cold. I'm feeling the word wind, that's pretty much the successful ones. That's what ends up playing out like. Now listen to this. Jesse's going to speak more about him peeking into safes and stuff out here. Check it out.
Bill Spears to power lasers, stuff like that.
If I'm putting my skeptic hat on, somebody from the audience is hearing this and they're saying you can get inside safes and you can draw up sensitive, Soviet sites. What is protecting our Q codes right now?
Right. Nothing.
Really? So basically anybody engaging in psychic spying or remote viewing can access the nuclear codes.
Except that it's probably 1 in 2,000 people would have to be interested, train for a lot of years to get to that level. And then you'd have to have a natural capacity for it. And most don't. But that is
very interesting, right? So even in the nuclear site with the codes, it's actually I had no idea it works like this. I just thought someone's out here, they watch it, they get a phone call from the president, they push a button. No. Apparently everybody on the nuclear sites, there's like a 4-hour constant rotation every part of the day. Every 4 hours, there's like an alarm that goes off and everybody has to punch in the codes. And no one knows which one has the code to activate. No one knows. So even it is very, very interesting, right? So I forgot how many there are. There's like all these codes, everybody punches them in all the time. No one knows which one is the activation code. And it only gets activated, I think, if the president enables the key. So no one knows which one it is. So everyone's just dinging it all the time. It's fascinating kind of how it works and how they all plan it out. Because I was always curious too. Hey, if other spies can go do this, why aren't they going and train and learning the codes of how to push things? So it's not so simple. It's almost like maybe the government kind of planned for this stuff ahead of time. Now let's continue.
And then the other interesting thing that you've said, and this is a little better known, is that you have to separate the transmission or download from the analysis.
Yeah, well, actually, you need to analyze it, but you don't up-analyze it, you down-analyze it.
What does that mean?
For instance, your subconscious has no language. The information probably comes out of the subconscious. So, since it has no language of its own, it borrows from your memory. So, let's say the target is a sewage processing plant. Few people have ever seen a sewage processing plant, but it looks somewhat similar to an Olympic swimming pool.
Right.
So your subconscious will give you the image of the last swimming pool you saw. And the thing you don't want to do is you don't want to come to the conclusion based on that it's an Olympic swimming pool. That would be a mistake. What you do is you tear it apart. Why did I get the image of the swimming pool? What about that is real and what about that is not? And so you do things, you ask yourself questions about that entire thing that you just got. Things like, would I swim in it? Oh, God, no. Why not? Well, taste it and find out.
So you're asking kind of like behavioral proxy questions or something.
And you break it down into the base elements.
Oh, it's fascinating.
Without deciding what it is. So you would never say a sewage processing plant. You would say things like round pool, some kind of fluid, stuff floating in the fluid, something spinning in there, a chemical, it's breaking down a bad smell.
It's almost like you have this multi-dimensional database in your head and you have these connections between sewage, swimming pool, and you have to actually sever those connections and just go directly at the target through these other kind of
you
proxy
analyze,
behavior.
you break it down through analysis by asking your mind what feels good, what doesn't feel good about the image. And you can tear it down to pieces. Now, if you learn to do that, the first thing you want to do is a sketch. And the reason you do a sketch is it comes out of a different area of your mind. Sketches are like gestalts. They, let's say it's a bridge. If you try to sketch a bridge, you may not know it's a bridge, but you'll do a sweep. You put something on both ends, and you put a repeating pattern, like X's all connected together. That's the grid work underneath the bridge, okay? You won't draw what you see, but you'll draw the parts or pieces that make you want to say something. As soon as you do that, you don't come to a conclusion. You retaste the target and you put down something that you have down analyzed. So by the time an analyst gets it, it doesn't look like anything specific, but the analyst, you have to remember, is working on a problem and he has collected all the data that's possible, he or she. And so they're sitting at a desk. They know everything about the target except the answer they're looking for. They get your material and it guides them to an area that they may look at a different way, and they'll just go, wow, that's it. That's the answer. But the answer is not displayed. It's just referenced in a way. So the other parts of it are when you're learning to do this, you have a monitor, somebody who can guide you. That they act as your left brain because you want to be totally in the right brain when you're doing this. And I'm saying that not as a reality, but as a function, because in reality, right, left brain does not reside on right and left side of the hemisphere.
Company's worth $3 trillion market cap.
It's actually,
but you need money.
See, in both hemispheres, it's a way of thinking. Right brain is.
It is very fascinating how it is. So it's very. The fact that it's possible tells you we don't know shit about reality, because this is another thing, friends. This is where it gets wacky. You can sketch stuff into the future, which you're like, no, how can it be? Because but it gets tough because you got a lot of ego, or it's weird stuff, because things have happened in the future that don't exist now. So your brain's like, you don't know what you're drawing. You're like, oh, I don't understand what the hell this is, because you're trying to pull from memory. So it's very tough for you to draw something in the future that's something new, because your brain has no memory of it. It's just like a signal's in there, but you know what the hell is going on here, which is fascinating as well. Now, naturally, friends, whenever these come up, do you remember a guy, rest in peace to this guy actually, James Randi, friends. Remember James Randi? He got famous because he was like a king atheist guy, and he would make these tests for psychics. And you're always wondering, hey man, if you could really do this, why don't you just go win that $1 million prize to do any of that? Why haven't anybody done it? He actually answers it, and he explains it's got to do with ego and intent out here, which is interesting.
Methodology didn't work. And what was the fatal flaw?
What was wrong with the experiment? Everything was done double blind.
Do you tell me?
I will tell you. The guy they told to sort the mice, by virtue of the fact that he was sorting controls from target mice, he did that psychically to give them their answer at the end. So he was the only psychic functioning person in the whole thing. Their psychics were not.
Oh, that's fascinating.
You understand?
Yes, your selection process can be all off.
I've used that experiment to give presentations at one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in America.
Wow.
And I said, the reason you come up with a drug every now and then that costs you over $1 billion and 10 years to manufacture, and it fails, is because you don't believe in psychic functioning.
Right.
And somewhere in your process, you have a psychic.
Right.
And they're giving you exactly what you want to see.
Right.
So because you don't buy into it,
It doesn't work.
it costs you a ton of money.
Well, yeah, you get into these because of that kind of epistemological, tautological
Right,
loops.
yeah.
Because if you have, it's like whenever I put out anything around this subject, you have to get, well, James Randi, you should win $1 million if you are able to prove
no,
this.
you don't. I can tell you about that too.
Well, yeah, because we're talking about it right now. But if there is an effect inherently, then there are experimenter effects, and there are witness observation effects.
Right.
And so, if anybody present comes in, completely trying to be a skeptic, it's going to affect the experiment itself.
Yeah.
The scientific method involves a priori skepticism, and so we're talking about kind of an epistemological paradigm shift, not just a scientific paradigm shift.
Except your perceptions are wrong.
What do you
And I'm
mean?
going to tell you why.
Yeah.
So, friends, he's going to continue. He's going to blow your mind up. I want to just interject. You play some angel music for everyone. Hope you're enjoying it. I pay more attention to this. Why? I'm here 18 hours a day. There is some really weird stuff, friends, because I'm good at communicating and we have fun and there's memes and there's Pokeballs and we're like looking at these Ty Lopez top secrets, all these other things out here. You're not like a 100% oracle soothsayer, but like some weird esoteric knowledge things appear. And like it's so obvious now because you're learning off me, right? It's so obvious to us, but to 99.99% of people, it's like it's wacko. Like people appear at the tops. Peter Schiff tweets at the bottom. Okay, but it goes deeper than that. So sometimes some really, really weird, spooky stuff happens, and it starts to make you think about other fields, layers, whatever it is out here, some other form of reality that's playing out. So I'm going to let Jon continue as well, because like, here's the thing, friends. I can't tell you what's going to happen with like cars or the health industry or virology or, how a plane's going to go. Like I can't do any of that. I'm here in crypto markets 18 hours a day, reading humans, reading emotions, how we price things on charts or perspectives in crypto. I can do that. And I do have a lot of these weird precognition things out here happening to me all the time as well. It's happened just too many times. It's happened. And like, I had no idea that it's actually like, I just think, it's random. It's random, but there's more to it. Let's let Jon continue.
Because there are things from a scientific standpoint that when we tested them, absolutely guarantee that a psychic function will not occur. Absolutely guarantee.
And what are those?
And you can test it 1,000,000 times and it just will not work.
How do you do that? How do you turn off the psychic function?
The sun is above the horizon. On the earth, from where you're standing, you're looking face into the sun. You just did a 4-fold reduction in your psychic functioning.
Interesting.
Where you are on the planet, at what time and what day has an effect.
Why is that?
Okay, no, I'm not finished yet.
Okay.
There's things like that we know to be true.
What else?
Okay, well, I'm not going to go into all of them because there's too many.
Okay.
But if they list all those things and hand it to somebody and say, if you're doing any 3 of these, you will not function right, okay? And then somebody comes in the door and says, we have a problem. We have somebody being tortured to death. We need to know where they are. You'll violate it all because of the intent. Intent overrides everything.
Wow.
So what you're saying is correct, but if the intent is an imperative, you will override it all.
So this gave me goosebumps. Why? I don't go looking for signals. I just sit here. Okay, because here's the thing, man. Sometimes I catch myself and I get the imposter syndrome. Everyone gets that, right? Where you're like, I'm like, what am I actually doing, man? I'm just sitting here doing nothing. I'm just like absorbing stuff like a freaking sponge. How do I spit out stuff? I was always thinking that. Is it random? What the hell is going on? And it's automatic. It's literally automated. It's automated. I'm not here looking for stuff. So I'm not like, I'm going to go look for a bottom signal. No, I just sit here and the Twitter feed and the YouTube feed just stream, pick something up, stream. I'm like, that's weird. That guy's twitching. Oh, look at that guy said, like stream. Like, I don't know why, but I really am telling you highest value content in crypto. I really do mean this. Okay. So it comes just to stream. It's like that matrix code, because I'm here 18 hours a day. I'm not saying I'm super special or anything. I'm just here. If you did this 18 hours a day, trust me, you see the same stuff out here too. I'm actually seeing you a lot of the times, and like you guys, you know me, just like I know you. In Telegram, you guys show me stuff so often. You're like, oh, somebody's gonna like this. Somebody's gonna like this. Once you start like connecting with people like this, it's kind of like when we're mentors. You know, that's why, friends, this is you can't even put a price to this stuff out here. But this is, friends, if you actually go back to the biggest stock market billionaire guys, this is what they had. They had this edge. There's one trader, I think Steve Cohen, the bold dude. I think he got done for like insider trading, but yeah, it's still one of the greatest, one of the big traders. Whenever some really bad trade was happening to him, he would start getting this backache in his chair. Yeah, he actually had a physical response, and he'd cut the trade, and he avoided a lot of black swans. That's how he was able to survive the whole time. I think it was him. So there was someone out here, they're like looking at it, and then like the stream happens, like, oh, my back's hurting, I'm out. It was always a backache. Just a random backache just appears. You know, very interesting. It's almost like he has a gift for trading. He's like a savant, being able to be a billionaire. Of course, they're managing money. There's a lot of insider stuff out here, but still, you know, like top of the game. Yeah, it's like his body has that response out here. You know, with me, another thing I notice, when the market's getting euphoria, my hands, I get RSI in this hand. I can't actually, I start freezing. It literally starts freezing. So just these things appear. Here's the thing. You see one, random. No, but when you see these things pile up, it's fascinating to me.
So there are exceptions, and you got to watch out for that, because people who say, no, we did everything to block viewing, they're wrong. You can't block it completely.
Well, you're almost, this is, kind of an extrapolation, but it's almost implying that there's an intelligence on the other side aiding you, because if your intent matters at all, like, why should it? You know, if it's just this kind of mechanical, deterministic, scientific process, why should your intent be able to override any of these conditions?
Well, it's intention, attention to detail, and expectation for outcome.
Okay.
If you're the only one dealing with that, it'll work. If there's 5 people involved in that experiment and none of them are focused on that, it may fail, because there is just too many possibilities for failure as a result, because the intent is not just your intent, it's everybody's intent that's involved in the experiment. If it's a post-grad student being paid to act as a monitor, he doesn't care what happens. Automatically, any scientist coming into the room, which is what you're talking about, they don't care if it works or not. They get to publish, they get famous for their publishing. So whether they're successful or unsuccessful is immaterial, because they're supposed to be indifferent to the outcome. Okay? But in remote viewing, if you have a scientist monitor all the people involved, 5 or 6 people, and you do a remote viewing and the intent is to save a life, everybody's on board and it'll work every single time.
That's what blew my mind. But there's another guy who came on Sean Ryan, similar, he said the exact same thing. So he said, like, this is the crazy part, man. This was the crazy part. Because, like, the question is, the first thing you ask is, how does coordinates in an envelope that you can't see, even, by the way, they've even done this, they write the note in a different language. They've tried that and it still works. That's crazy. So, friends, obviously, you can't speak Chinese. So let's say someone writes Chinese, they write a location like Bonjour Cheesecake Shop, right? Written in Chinese. And it's in an envelope. You can't see what's in the envelope. When they do the remote view, they still are able to track it, what they're talking about. I'm like, whoa. It's written in a language. They can't even understand the language. What's going on? Why? It's spooky. We don't understand the full science. But what they found is the more people who are on board with intent to figure out the answer increases the odds of them getting an answer from the psychic. We never use that word psychic. We just use the word remote viewing, because that's what you're kind of doing, right? Because sometimes psychic also implies you can talk to people through the heads and stuff out here, so you're two-way. Most of us, we can just, when people get abducted and stuff out here, Mr. Alien dudes, they connect telepathically. We're like a satellite. We can understand, and we can't obviously talk back out here. So that's what blew my mind, the people's intent. So that's why I feel like, I don't know if you ever seen, friends, that that secret of like the law of attraction. I thought it was the biggest load of shit. I thought, nah, they're trying to grift the law of attraction. I tried. Everyone tries it. But then I came around now. I'm like, oh, wait, it's real. Positive thinking well, they've tested for it. They have tested for it. Scientifically, they've tested for it, friends, as well. Even in hospitals, I forgot the exact stats, but there's always a boost in stats, health and everything else. It's that magic placebo effect where people are just like, don't worry, it's going to get better. Just say it's going to get better. Just literally just say it. You start manifesting this stuff out here. But this is taken to a whole new level. This isn't like psyopsing your brain and your body to start getting. This is actually like people want to locate a location, find something. So that's how it works. So the team of people want to find the answer. If they're all on board, you get the right answer. However, if the psychic's really intent on doing it, you get no answer. That's why it's always done blind. That's why they have intent. They don't tell the psychic or the remote viewer. They write it in an envelope. They write it down. They got to give me an answer. And the more people that want the answer, the higher the win rate is for them. But the person themselves doing it, they can't. You know, obviously, because whenever we try to do this, everyone's like, okay, sweet, let me go to the stock market and try doing that stuff. That's going to be like, that'd be wild. But yeah, we'll probably be dead by then in 100, 200 years. How's the stock market going to price itself? It's going to be like whoever can be the best future viewer. That's wild. And then like, what if everyone's expecting one thing? So yeah, but this is very, very new pseudoscience, borderline stuff. Now, even with the topic of James Randi, friends, so this was interesting. I was always curious, like, why didn't anyone ever win that $1 million? Well, let's continue.
Those kinds of things. With regard to the amazing Randy, the payoff was not $1 million. It was an investment that would pay you eventually $1 million over 30 years.
Jesus.
What kind of intent is that? Secondly, he's the one who picks the target, does the judging, and tells you whether you're right or wrong.
So he could rig it.
I'd never participate in an experiment like that. I've been challenged so many times to do a live remote viewing double blind on camera in a prime time way in front of 25 million or more people that anybody else would shy away from that.
Yeah.
I've been successful every time.
Well, yeah, you've done more televised remote viewings than anybody in the history.
And what's interesting to me, the most controlled example of that I ever did was for National Geographic in the San Francisco Bay Area. They used 3 different film crews, so nobody was talking to anybody else. It was protected targets. It was randomly selected. I was completely blind. Ed was completely blind. The entire film crew in the room was completely blind, and I absolutely nailed it.
You get a feeling like she had to park somewhere through a tunnel or something, or under an overpass, up a walkway of some kind under an overpass, an open area in the center, and there's some kind of artwork, some kind in the center. But this artwork is very bizarre. It's set in gravel, stone.
And when they put it on television, they said, but you can't tell much from one result. They knew when they said that I had done probably 12,000 of those.
What were the targets? Do you remember?
The target that I did for them?
Yeah.
It was the end of the Dumbarton Bridge.
Wow.
In fact, I did it, the entire remote viewing. It was 1 minute, 30 seconds. And I heard the director go, and I said, I guess that's too fast for national television. And I said, so what I'm going to do is I'll sit in the front seat, you put a camera behind me, and I'll tell you how to get to the target.
Wow.
Which I did.
You taught him?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So, fascinating. That's wild, dude. I didn't even know that, right? So he does this thing live. Now, naturally, after hearing all these, friends, we've got to cover more of these because there's more way, a lot more juicy in the interview. And that was very, very juicy for you. So, even when it comes to these, I always wondered, I go, dude, wait, stop everything. Okay, and I'm wearing a Jigglypuff hat. Okay, you're telling me this guy has done live remote viewings. They were legit. He proved the camera crew producers wrong because he got it right. Successful multiple times live. Why haven't I heard of him? You know, and obviously you and I have heard of him. Why the hell haven't we heard of him? And part of it, technology and internet, but also part of the human psyche. We weren't ready to believe it was happening the whole time. It was happening there. You remember earlier in the video, they show you the gorilla man, like you're watching the basketballs being thrown around. They put a gorilla in between and you didn't even notice the gorilla. That's why we're in disbelief. We're like, no way this thing happened. I'd have heard of him by now. No. Man, humans. That's it. Really is. It's how our brains form reality. Like, we have to summarize so many things. So anything outside of it, we're just not. It's like it's happening right under our nose. Right under our nose. I guarantee there are non-human entities walking around right here, and we could test for them somehow. We just don't even think it's possible to even think of a test. We could test for it somehow. Amongst many other things. Different realities, just all this stuff is happening out here. It's wild, isn't it? It's crazy to think that all these things, it really is intent. Do you believe? That's why also when it comes to crypto, we talk about it's a believer's cycle. It really is a believer's cycle. So what does it even mean? Like, faith kind of like took a hit, like a lot of the pro-science stuff out here in the past 10, 20, 30 years, but now it's like swinging around back. Because science doesn't have all the answers for these things out here. And turns out a lot of those ancient civilizations weren't so retarded after all. Kind of like they had other stuff and a deeper knowledge that we didn't. So I think it goes hand in hand, right? If you're in crypto, this is bleeding edge. They've never seen anything like this before. I love looking at this stuff out here. It's exciting. It really is exciting. And I think if you're in crypto, everyone's interested in this stuff. Everyone's interested. Because we're in crypto, man. We're like it's kind of funny, but like, even after all these, okay? Even after all these, we got to remember, like, we're living a miracle right now. It's Bitcoin. Friends, this thing was literally, it was literally 1 cent. Friends, it was literally 1 cent. And it went to, that's $100,000. It was 1 cent. And there's still a bid for it. So, like, you see, you're not that excited anymore because you're desensitized to it. Because me too, because we know network effects, Metcalfe's law, the adoption, the technology, you understand the fiat, you understand market caps. Our brains, you and I, we've put all the puzzles together. The market cap, the fiat, storing value. But we had no idea this was possible before. No idea, but it is possible, man. This chart's real. This chart's real, man. We watched it. It's actually happening right now. And this thing's going to go to $1 million. So technically, it's not even meant to exist right now. But see, if you know it's possible, you know what to look for. That's why we're in crypto. That's what we are hunting crypto. We're literally hunting these gems out here. That's why, like, okay, maybe you figure out how to figure out some tests, how to test for some lizard people out there. Maybe you find some other way of communication out here, whatever it is. They're cool, but does your life really change? No. Like, you and I, we're financially incentivized to keep hunting for these crypto gems out here. You escape this rat race. I wonder where it goes from here. We're going to get more answers as these things come on. I think part of this mystery, like I said, crypto people and this, it goes hand in hand, straight out. Like, we're just like, we're totally bleeding edge. That's what separates us from the government cucks and the science cucks. You need the science cucks out here, but that's what separates us completely. They need the method. They need the method. They need the test. They need the rigid structure, whereas you and I shy away from that. We're like, oh, boring. Everyone's got the solutions. Let's go to somewhere where they don't know what the hell's going on yet. That's what makes it special. So, Jon McMoneagle, friends, man, look, it shouldn't even exist. How? This makes no sense, man. Writing bonjour, writing another language, coordinates somewhere. How on earth is that possible? And it's not just him. This is known out there in the world. A lot of people out here. There's also, for someone, whenever I linked this video last time, someone linked there's this crypto channel that does remote viewing. I think they've been wrong every single prediction. That's so funny. Typical crypto people, they're like, oh, some big crash is gonna come out here. So, oh man, typical crypto people. Like, subscribe, belly button, or catch you soon.